We're joined from Cairo by the managing editor of Al-Ahram newspaper, Mr. Ashraf Houl. Welcome to Qnews, sir. Now, with the Palestinians returning to the northern Gaza Strip, now, what conditions are the Palestinians actually facing upon returning to their homes in the northern territories of Gaza?
Firstly, I would like to salute you and your esteemed viewers. Situations are very bad at the northern of the Gaza Strip. Most of the houses were demolished and the roads aren't paved enough for walking. There are no stores or food that fulfill the needs of the people. But they justified to go from this house in order to see what their houses and what they left from their families and several of the members of the family under the rubble of the demolished bodies, and their bodies were in the ruins. So they go back for several reasons, and there is a dire desire to stay in their birthhood. They may to reach in services while they were in the refugees areas in the south, in the central, in Adi Nawasi. They found nothing, and also the weather was very hard. So the return of the refugees is that, or the return of the displaced people from the north to the south troubled everybody, and their calculations, such as international organizations that should double the aids heading to the north, and also with troubled Israel that they had to partially withdraw from Netzarim corridor, as well as the Palestinian authorities that they cannot to fulfill their needs and to make the matters more complicated. Rather, the people preferred to go back to their homelands, and they might be getting better later on.
Mm-hmm. Well, so how are the local teams on the ground assessing the scale of destruction in northern Gaza, and what sort of immediate help is being offered to those affected?
Let me to remind you, and I think you've already mentioned this repeatedly in Qnews, which is that the aids are facing a great shortages. Most of the aids for together for only one organization that has a clear plan of work and facing several problems, as well as the logistics area, which is the UNRWA. But UNRWA, in light of the great vast of numbers returning, and upon the pressure that they are facing, so the quantities of the aids are much as they possible to fulfill the needs of the people. Egypt, from its hand, opened the crossings and to enter the most quantities of aid. But we should remember that Israel do the inspections of the aids, so the process of entering aren't in a pace that appropriate, and so even the quantity of the aid is much better compared to the past months.
So what is being done to actually try and balance any insufficient humanitarian aid getting into the Gaza Strip and still maintaining the safety and health conditions of the Gazans returning to their northern territories?
Unfortunately, most of the people they cannot pay the taxi fares, the transportation from the north into the north. Most of them are taken or their roads on foot, spending 10 kilometers while they are sick and weak. Unfortunately, for the first 2 days, they threw the road into a stream. Some of them were fall dead. And there's a process of an inspection to the vehicles, and some unexploded devices weren't aware under the roads, and the shortage of the pharmaceuticals. So it is in a very dangerous process, but still they wish to go back home.
So how feasible and realistic is the ceasefire going to be turned into a permanent one, and a two-state solution being the only viable solution for this crisis?
Let me say to you that the brokers, Egypt, Qatar, and the US, are pressuring forcibly to execute a full ceasefire. When Israel rejected to open Nizrim Road for the displaced people to go through back home, and they protected by the Erbil Yehud that hasn't been released yet. So brokers intervened to expose their fate, and it's been agreed upon to be released in the past Friday, along with others, in return of releasing more than 90 Palestinian prisoners. That would facilitate the matters a wee bit. Also, the Qatari and Egyptian team is trying to space Israeli privilege for Israel, and they expected the vehicles, and there are ongoing communications with the political leaders of Hamas and the Palestinian resistance, along with Israel, in order to pave the way in entering the second phase of the swap of the captives. And I think the matter's ongoing fine, despite the hindrances and obstacles that took place lately.
Mr. Houl, one final question. The makeshift clinics or the hospitals, are they getting enough fuel and medical supplies that would actually maintain some sort of a health service that is being offered to citizens returning to their northern homes?
There was a priority for entering the medical supplies and the medical devices, to say, on the trucks that entered lately. Pharmaceuticals and medical supply were entered along with advices that the hospitals are in dire need. Most importantly, appropriate quantities were entered to the hospital to reoperate themselves, as most of them were non-operative, and they don't have the supplies such as the medical materials to be used to sewing the wounds, etc. All these things, a great quantity of them entered into the strip as a priority in order for these hospital medical centers to fulfill their needs.
From Cairo, that was the managing editor of Al Ahram newspaper, Mr. Ashraf Abul Houl. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on Q News.